Alright, boys and girls, this is it. This is the big one, the one that we have all been waiting for. Sure, Nemesis was cool, the previous updates were awesome, and, well, the 3.0.3 patch has been received relatively well. What I think is important, however, is to look at the future, which is exactly what the development team have been doing in the last few months. Yes, they have done some rather interesting stuff with the team, the development team over at Paradox Interactive. Now, what is important to know here is that the team has been reorganized. For those of you who've kept an eye on the careers page over at Paradox Interactive, I do so every once in a while just to see what is going on, and there have been quite a lot of recruitment options over on the Stellaris team. And why has that been? Why is that the case? Well, that is because the team has been split up into two divisions. That is the Custodian team, Team 1, that will be working on the stuff we'll be talking about today, so we'll dive into that a little bit deeper. And the other team, which from now on remains unnamed and will be working on content. Now, to quickly loop back to the Custodian stuff and some of the new content that has been added to the game recently, for those of you who are not aware, and if we go into our ship appearance, you will now see that this is an option within the game. If you go through your ships and you look at what is available in terms of ship designs and stuff like that, it is no longer a simple image. No, it is what is effectively similar to what you would expect from the in-game ship browser. So now you can have a decent overview of what the ships look like. Now, that by itself may not be all that impressive, and you may think by yourself, okay, that doesn't seem like a high priority thing to be working on within the game, because there has been a bit of a backlog on certain items. And that, to a certain degree, is true. There are always things that can improve, whether or not be game performance or other things for that matter, and that is where the Custodians team comes in. They are announcing the 3.1 Lem update, probably one of the most important updates to the game since Distant Stars. Now, I always rave about Distant Stars. It is one of my favorite small content packs, and it added so much additional value to the game, it is not even funny. It goes right into the same category with Utopia, for that matter. But what is really important, however, is some of the things that the Lem update is going to bring to the game. So allow me to walk you through today's Dev Diary and basically go through things about what the Custodian team is doing at the moment. So, when Stellaris was first launched, 2016, the Paradox Interactive team was very different. They were a lot smaller, and they didn't have all that much time to work on everything that would be required from a prioritization point of view on the dev cycle. Certain things got into the backlog, and as we all know, things that go into the backlog usually stay in the backlog when it comes to game dev, and that is unfortunate. However, considering Stellaris has been doing so well in the last few years, they have split up the team, or at least expanded the team, and added a live operation side of things that will keep patching the game and keep adding updates to the game. And basically the idea is that they will be releasing, and this is very important, a free update every 3 months. And that can be one of the following: tweaking game balance, which is relatively straightforward. There's always game balance that needs to be addressed, whether or not it be some of the civics, some of the origins. Some of them are really, really, really powerful. And for instance, let's say, if we go through some of our civics here and ethics, let's say the wonders of technocracy. It is incredibly powerful. It has had a semi-nerf in the past, but it is just an example of things that they'll be working on. Polishing existing content, so graphics updates, making sure that everything works fine, that UI works fine, that events work fine, streamlining of scripts, that sort of thing is what you need to think about there. Bug fixes, big one. There's always bugs in the game. There's always scenarios with these sort of titles that are extremely, extremely extensive and have a lot of player agency in it. And that basically means that you have a lot of options, and how those options synergize can sometimes lead to weird bugs, which is unfortunate, but it's sadly the world that we live in. Performance updates is an ongoing thing. The team has been doing stuff with performance performance updates and performances in the past quite significantly, and this is the game that we live in today. It is relatively decent right now. It's not necessarily all the way up to the point where it was, I want to say, before the Le Guin update, but still, with the changes that have been added to the game since then, we still have a massive amount of performance updates in that period. AI improvements. AI is one of the big bugbears for a lot of people. AI is something that has been lacking because in the end, the AI exists in a script base, and it's not really reactive in any way, shape, or form. It is not Skynet, and still, it could use a little bit of work. Multiplayer stability. Multiplayer right now is incredibly stable. Very stable, actually. I've been playing long games, up to 8 to 10 hours, and haven't had any issues with multiplayer so far. But again, they're looking to improve stability, UI and quality of life improvements, and of course, that is where, for instance, the ship manager comes in, and of course, it allows you to very quickly look at what kind of ships you have. Not that you necessarily look at them from point-blank range this close, because usually you're fairly zoomed out within the game, but it does give you the ability to take a look at what kind of ship designs you will be playing with. I've skipped one in this list because it's very important that we talk about something that has not been addressed in the past and is really, really important. So, for the potential next update, for the Stanislaw Lem update, who will have its 100th anniversary this year, the Stanislaw Lem update, the 3.1, will have the following features. And I think it's important that we talk about these. First of all, plantoids and humanoids. Plantoids and humanoids are a little expansion pack, a little feature content pack that was added years ago, and plantoids in particular was launched for $10 at the time and only had a ship set and a bunch of these wonderful appearance features. So we can go to plantoids and actually take a look at what they look like. Sure, they look cool, and the same thing applies to humanoids. Humanoids look pretty cool. They've got a bunch of features in there, but in the end, they didn't add a lot of content in terms of gameplay. And then, of course, lithoids came around, and all of a sudden the lithoid traits became a thing, and it happened the same thing with necroids as well. What will be happening with humanoids and lithoids is they will go back and change the packs in such a way that they add additional gameplay content. Yes, gameplay content added to humanoids and plantoids, which means that they will have a significant increase in value, and that's something that I've been wanting for quite some time. Going back into the packs, for instance, humanoids, what can we expect here? New civics, new origins? That's something that we don't know at this point in time. The same thing applies to the plantoids pack, but yeah, we can expect updates, and I would not be surprised if new content and gameplay mechanics will be added, because it's something that I personally have been wanting for quite some time, and I would not be surprised if it's something that the team has been wanting for quite some time. For the next one, we're going to need to quickly jump into a random game to illustrate my point, because the next one is going to be the joys of selectable tradition trees. Yes! Selectable tradition trees. I think that we've talked about this to some certain degree in the past, where traditions, they've got their paths, but by the end of the game, you kind of finished all your traditions. There is no real meaningful decision here. And what it looks like that they're going to be doing is adding the ability to slot in the tradition path, or at least the tradition tree that you want. They're going to be adding a larger amount of tradition trees into the game. So basically, let's say that you have prosperity, you will be able to swap that one over. Adaptability will be able to swap over into something else. For instance, diplomacy. So instead of, if you want to go for the diplomacy tree instead of adaptability, that makes the choices of picking your traditions, or at least what options you want on your tradition, a lot more important. Basically, you can go ahead and say, okay, do I want to go down the prosperity route, or do I want to take a different approach? And this is something that happened in, I want to say, Civilization 5 as well, where you had the option to go for authoritarianism, for communism, or for liberalism. I don't know if it was called communism at the time, or something along those lines, but being able to select your tradition trees is such a big deal that it needs to be looked at, and that's exactly what they'll be doing. They're going to be adding new tradition trees that will be part of existing expansion packs. So certain expansion packs, whether or not it's some of the major ones or some of the more content-orientated ones, distant stars, plantoids, humanoids, necroids, will be added. So you will have specific paths that you can choose, giving you more options in the game, more significant choices to make. And that right there is one of the biggest things. By the way, necrophage hive minds are coming. Yes, you heard it here. Necrophage hive minds are coming. And that is awesome. We got a little bit of a tease as well on what to expect here. We got a civic that has been displayed already. It's called Masterful Crafters, which will be added to the game. And basically what it does is that your artisans, the artisans, of course, that work on your standard worlds here within your industrial districts. So let's take a look here at our industrial districts on a place with robots, so we don't have that in this case. But basically, artisans will be replaced with artificers, what basically means that artificers will also produce trade value and engineering research on top of the consumer goods that they're already generating. And that right there is a very interesting choice, especially if you go into, say, the menu here for selecting a species. When it comes to Masterful Crafters, I would immediately go towards these bad boys. Yes, it looks like the Space Dwarfs may actually have a civic attached to them. Who knows? Who knows? It is completely up in the air. And I love this direction that they're going in. The fact that they are no longer going to be long times of no updates, up to 6 months. No, we will have continuous drops coming into our general direction, whether or not be content, whether or not they're going to be patches, whether or not going to be updates. It's going to be more of a live operation side of things. Still, sure, we still have the main team working on the big expansions. Who knows what they're cooking up in the back room? But at the same time, there will be a team dedicated to keeping the game up to pace so that the other team can focus on the big scope of the game. This is a very exciting transition within the team, and I'm very much looking forward to what to expect from these guys. And at this point, you're kind of looking at like an end of an era, really, because 2.0 Apocalypse, end of an era. We moved on from the bases then, and now then we had the weapon system changes as well as the FTL changes. Then came Le Guin, the economy rework, which, whilst polarizing, I think now works extremely well and is well thought out and just doesn't have that many performance issues anymore. And now at 3.1, the Lem update is going to change things for the development cycle of Stellaris by so much, and it is so exciting, and I'm really looking forward to what this game is going to give us in the future and where this is all going to go. I want to hear what you have to think about this, specifically regarding the Lem update features, the backlog buffing for humanoids and plantoids, and of course those necrophage hive minds, the tradition tree selection, because that's going to change the meta completely. The balance pass that is coming, apparently they're going to be working on balance and quality of life improvements, AI improvements, and all that good stuff. Stellaris is getting into a second renaissance, a third renaissance at this stage, and it's not gonna finish anytime soon. Looking forward what things are going. If you've watched this video all the way through, make sure that you post down in the comments saying, I read Stellaris, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you so much for my patrons for making this video possible as well. A little bit of a lighter video today, but huge impact within the future of the game. We're going to go wrap this one up here. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take good care of yourselves. And as always, just go read Stellaris, okay? It's a good book.